Hey, Michael Hart.
Hey, how you doing?
I feel like my friends and I are the multitude living in the ruins of the Industrial Revolution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you and your friends certainly could be the multitude, but in order to be a multitude, you have to be organized as a political project. I mean, it's not just any random gathering of people. And you and your friends could certainly do that with other friends too, but it requires organization. It has to be organized politically and in action politically.
I do want to organize and take advantage of this space specifically. The one behind me, the limited. But I'm experiencing a sort of creative block. I mean, we're clearly past malls as consumers.
Sometimes it does seem like we're past malls as consumers, but what I'm more interested in the mall is the people who work there. Often really horrible, mind-numbing work. But how to transform them and see them, how should I put it? If they could see ways to get together and do something different, that would seem really amazing to me.
Yeah, but how? I mean, feels like everyone and everything is a million miles away. Which, on second thought, could be a good thing. I mean, nobody's watching. We can do anything right now, and it doesn't seem to matter.
I remember reading that Thomas Jefferson, towards the end of his life, said that the real outcome of that revolution might be that eventually we would be able to rule ourselves without masters. It'd be nice if that were something we could make real. To rule ourselves without masters.
Right.
I remember that Karl Marx was admiring of those workers who smashed machines, because the machines were their enemies. The machines were replacing them. But Marx said it took a while for workers to learn that it wasn't the machines that were their enemy, but the masters of the society that controlled those machines. And so what the workers need to do is to find ways to employ those machines differently. Yeah, I think the same true for us. It's not the machines that are our enemy. Machines can be our aid, but it's the social form, it's the masters of the social world that currently employs those machines. That's what our enemy is.
You know, I can still remember the full opiate of the masses quote from school. It goes, "Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people."
Religion's long been a terrain, a battleground of political struggle. And so I wouldn't pose religion on one side or the other. It's rather how we need to where it's one of many battlefields that we need to struggle. And if you look at the history of religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, others, they both have traditions of liberation and, more often, traditions of hierarchy and domination. We would have to find ways of linking up with those liberation traditions that exist in religion, on religious terrain, just as everywhere else.
I think it's funny how most governments promote freedom through people's rights to consume whatever they choose. It must be in a globalist memo somewhere. Do you think it's weird that the United States consumes its own influence from foreign countries? Like US designed products made in China. I find it odd that billions of dollars worth of goods are shipped into this country, yet there's very little cultural exchange going on in the process.
In some ways, the U.S. is holding on to a dying global hegemony, trying to maintain a unilateral position of imperialism, of global domination, without any longer having the means to. In that sense, the U.S. hasn't yet been able to understand what it would mean to have a more democratic, globalized world.
It's like we're importing ourselves back onto ourselves in some weird closed feedback loop, you know.
And failing to recognize, I mean, you're right, failing to recognize the other cultures that come with, that could come with these kinds of exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
So, what about love? Or specifically, platonic love? Because personally, I think this value is becoming more and more absent. Where's fellowship and brotherhood? These once important traits seem forgotten from American culture. You know, because it's not macho.
It can enter, and it does all the time, but you have to be careful because there are evil forms of love too. I mean, white nationalists, they love white people. There are forms of love based on sameness or identity that are also really horrible. So we need to invent a different kind of love.